Well, good morning, Kerry. Welcome to our meeting, and we're really pleased to have you here. Kerry is the editor and publisher of Coverings Magazine. I know a lot of the people on this call receive your magazine, and we all look forward to getting an update from you. It's a great magazine. It covers our industry nationally, and Kerry has been in this business a long time and knows all the ins and outs about our business, but also is an ambassador for our industry, and we really thank you for you taking the time to join us this morning. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Let's see. I guess starting off, in anticipation of this is my first public engagement since the lockdown. So I got a COVID cut. You can duplicate this one with a wall number 2 at Canadian Tire. I think we all wish that we would have bought stock in wall before this all started happening. And I would like to thank Tomas for asking me to speak today. The little picture you're looking at on the screen, kind of a placid spring scene. It's my backyard a year ago. We're about 2 weeks out from those little Japanese peonies popping out. Again, this year, that's the Credit River behind, and a little gray oak tree. Kind of introduces who I am. I don't have the nice weather that you people do in BC. I love going out to BC, and I would live there if I could. Unfortunately, in the magazine business, most of the advertisers, of course, are in Ontario, and we have to pay due reverence. So I live in Ontario. I want to open this up just letting you know a little bit about who's talking, because I am kind of an odd duck. I know that. In general, I believe that when editors are working, they should be behind the camera and in front of the microphone. And I find myself in this awkward position of being in front of the camera and behind the microphone and flapping my jaws. And I've been told when I was young that when I'm flapping my jaws, that's the one time I can be certain I will learn nothing. So the rest of you have an opportunity. The rest, I do not. Editors, your general press, your main media, your trade media, they seem to have lost contact with the readership, and they focus on commercial interest, they focus on advertising, they focus on dollars, which of course we all need to do, but the call of the trade publication is to try to answer the needs of the readers, and that's what I've made my career doing. So I'm very reader oriented. I love getting letters and calls from my readers, and so my perspective today is going to be on 20-some years working with the industry in Canada, and unfortunately, it's going to be a kind of Ontario-centric. Let's see. I guess I should say we have 2 magazines. We have Coverings Magazine. We also have a magazine for the secondary wood products, which we teach cabinetry and architectural millwork and things like that in Canada, and that one's called Wood Industry. So that's me, and that's my backyard. Let's take a look at the next slide. I called this program or this presentation Broken Field Runners, and it's not just so I could have a gimmick. It's because I see that as where the flooring industry kind of stands today. For those of you that aren't big football fans, a broken field is after a time where there's a punt or a kickoff or a confusion in the hike or the pass or what, and somebody's running downfield. That'll be you, and there are tacklers popping up everywhere, and we're going to be looking a little bit at who's out there to be a problem for us. I won't be looking at the disease itself. I'm not an epidemiologist. Don't pretend to be. So We're going to be looking a little at China. We're going to look at Europe. We're going to look at our employees. We're going to look at the government. And we're going to try to see like what is going to really happen. And by the way, congratulations on the announcement this morning that you're going to be opening up DC. Those things are happening here as well. And I think that a lot of us have been locked down without revenues, not understanding what's going to happen. A lot of us are confused, irritated, just kind of a general sense of malaise. We hear from the government that there's going to be help, and then where is it? And so we start looking to, well, the worst place, I guess, is to look inside our heads and say, what's going to happen to me? And where's the money going to come from? And who should I talk to? And where's my banker? And what about my lawyer? Asking yourself questions that have no answers, and it can just drive you berserk. So let's take a look at the next slide. It appears to me that this has, generally speaking, generated two types of people. There are those such as ourselves that can use Zoom, we can conference in, we can call people, we can work or not with income. If you're not working and you get income, power to you. And then there are those that don't get money, that don't have work to do. And those latter tend to fall into the general realm of small business people. Next slide. So right now, the government has asked small businesses to borrow money and retain employees indefinitely. We've been told that we'll be paid back 75% of salaries on workers that we keep on. And my immediate reaction then, and it hasn't changed, is, well, isn't that nice? We can borrow money, and then we get to pay it back, and we have until the end of 2022 to do it. And if we do that promptly, then we get $10,000 of it back. I don't know what your business is like. $10,000 won't cover my 1 month's postage with Canada Post. So it's oh, I guess you could call it damning with faint praise. So our employees are going to be getting a full or near full salary, and the owners get to sign a bank note, do an 18 months, and we don't have any assurances as to what the business climate is going to be between now and then. We don't know how much housing starting there's going to be. We don't know how much remodeling there's going to be. Are you going to be the first one, or somebody going to be the first one on their block to throw a block party? Or what company or association is going to be the first to throw to have a convention or have a trade show? And I think it's going to be all well and good that we soon have permission. It still remains to be seen, in my mind, who's going to want to jump first. And in trade shows especially, once you put on a trade show or once you announce it, what does that say about the attendees? There are going to be a lot of people out there that are very nervous, very not interested in exposing themselves or their families, and still unsure about the actual transmissibility of this and the wisdom of trying to go out and do business. So I think that we're looking at a very unsure prospect. So then, let's say that we've been playing along and we're at third down, and we know where we are, sort of. We know what we're in, sort of, but where did we come from? And I want to go back. Now, I think this is germane. I hope that it rings a bell with somebody, because I tend to try to look at a broader perspective than just today and yesterday. And if we look back, say to 2000, Europe and Canada and China were kind of in a line, working together. A lot of us were supplying the United States with products. And at that time, Europe was touting its own expertise in technology. They were very heavily into automation. Robotics was trying to make its appearance. Computer numerical controlled machinery, routers and things like that were coming into their own. And so Europe was envisioning a birth to barbecue kind of a transition of every product all being not touched by human hands. I was at a kitchen cabinet plant in Germany where that's what they did. It was They had a big saw in the middle as things started getting ripped up, and they went off in different places. The robot picked them up. They got glued, put together, wrapped up with a refrigerator and stove, sent out. It was quite amazing. It was like watching a 1950s cartoon. China, they were better in labor costs, and I was told that one fellow that of my acquaintance had been in China, and he had seen a construction project, a road construction project. And those of you that have been in China will understand this as well. In China, they still do scaffolding with bamboo on the outsides of the businesses. They go up way up there. I never counted the levels, but it doesn't look safe. It doesn't look fun. But their scaffolding is lashed together with bamboo. In this particular instance, there was a earth mover that was sitting idle by the side of the road, and there were some people digging dirt. And the guy asked the driver, "Why are these people digging dirt?" And they've got that huge earth mover. And the guy said, "We can hire 500 guys a day for what it costs us to run that machine." And so that was the thing it was the situation in China. So in Canada, we could say, well, our labor costs aren't as cheap as China, and our automation costs aren't as high as in Europe. So we can kind of split the difference, and we can have relatively cheap labor and relatively high automation. And that's kind of where we went with varying degrees of success. Depends on how you look at it, but that was kind of the situation. The EU had problems coming into Brexit or into COVID, and that COVID overshadowed the Brexit problem in England, the French problem with the strikes, Greek finances. And China had problems with the United States before COVID hit, as we all know and have watched, and now it's seen as an agitator. So I think that, or agitator, that's good, so the originator. So I think that if we look at the way that we evolved to get here, China is suddenly in a very different situation. Canada is in a very different situation on its own, but its trading partners, East and West, are in very different situations as well. And I think that some of the stresses and strains that were on those relationships prior to COVID may have been accentuated by the advance of the disease, and it may cause some toppling that people aren't really looking for just yet. I look to see some toppling. And importantly, in that neither Asia nor Europe has been a significant importer of Canadian goods. Basically, we've been the importers. Finally, on this one, this I think is huge. Saudi Arabia and Russia got into a gas war last month, or a month before, I guess that's when it started. And this is so critical because irrespective of your feelings on alternative energy sources, historically and currently, fossil fuels are the stuff of military and war. And there are potential problems with China, Russia, and other countries in military terms. And we have always, in Canada, North America, United States, we've always had dependence on oil as a fear for our security. With recent advances in technology, notably in Alberta and also around in the United States, the issue of fossil fuels has become greatly reduced as a dependency factor for us. And theoretically, I think people think that we can move on forward without them, which means when Saudi Arabia and Russia get into a war, even after its resolve, gas war, after its resolve, that there are going to be a lot of spin-offs and fallouts that are going to be occurring, and we don't have to participate. I think that all of us would like to see Alberta get back on its feet in the world stage, and maybe this will help them. But in any event, military dependence has been changed totally by this situation with fossil fuels. So I think that's going to have a dramatic effect, not only on economic things, but on political things that affect economics. So we look at the next one. So if all that is true, then what do we do with that? And we need to ask the question: will China recover its former dominance in North American trade? My sense is that it won't. I think that there's a lot of public aversion to Chinese trade dominating. I think that people have been unhappy with evidence of industrial espionage and stealing patents and things like that. I've been to China. I was trying to remember last night. I think a dozen times or so. It's very instructive to go over there and totally a lovely place and lovely people. Politically, maybe not so lovely, but with Trump coming in as president of the United States, there was some friction, obvious friction with China. There's some apparent changes in their trade situation now with the advent of COVID. It seems that China is going to be blamed, at least in part, for not sharing more information sooner. And I think they will be politically and economically weakened in terms of their ability to trade as aggressively as they did in the past. They may try. I just don't know if their ability will be as high. Will the EU resolve its political and social and fiscal issues? I guess I'm committed to say I don't think so. I said back when the EU launched and they created the euro, I said I just didn't see it working long term. I didn't see countries that are really high producers and aggressive and technologically oriented, like Germany, getting along economically and financially with some of the Southern European countries that have more of a laissez-faire kind of attitude toward heavy industry and hard work and that kind of thing. And of course, we in North America look to Italy and elsewhere in Europe, and we see them taking 4 or 5, 6 week vacations, essentially shutting down their economy. And we've always had a difficult time. At least I've had a difficult time understanding how that really works. I would love to have had 6 weeks off in a row at some point in my life, but that hasn't happened yet. So will Saudi Arabia and Russia return to their former strength and energy? I've already said I don't think so. I don't think they can. Their biggest purchaser has now turned into their biggest competitor, and they're trying to fight each other for scraps and trying to move more into Europe, which will do what it does. And then just a quick at the end, after all the social distancing and stuff I mentioned earlier, I think we're going to be people aren't going to want to jump right into hugging and shaking hands and all that kind of thing that we used to do. And I think that one thing that we're going to see is that the world at large is just going to need more floor space between people. And I think that can hardly bode ill for our industry. I think that we're going to have demand out there. If we can find it, we're going to have opportunities out there if we can find it. So next. So we got to call our play. This is the huddle. This is the action. We're going to choose pass, run, or fail. And one thing that I think is important to recognize when we're feeling gut-wrenched and hurt over finances, we need to understand we are not in a recession. A recession has a definition. It's 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. We may well be on the road. It looks like we are on the road to a recession, but for the moment, we're not in a recession. Next slide. This is important because when you're going into a recession, the reason is because some of your economic fundamentals have failed or are failing. Employment, housing, GDP, these things are starting, like manufacturing, starting to slow down. Going into this pandemic in North America, the economic fundamentals were strong. The stock market was high, the GDP was high, both the United States and Canada. Everybody was doing well. So I think that it's incorrect for us to view this as a substantive downturn of merit that actually we can't get out of. I think that once we get the monkey off our back in terms of disease avoidance, that we're going to have to start making up time, whether we like to or not. Things like elective surgeries are going to have to proceed, dental cleaning, new clothes, haircuts. These things are going to have to occur at a faster rate than they were in the past. We're going to have to catch up, not start over. And so I think that will keep money moving, it'll keep people moving, and I think that it bodes well for the industry. At the same time, I think that there might be some anger from family-owned businesses that have watched their fortunes melt away during this, and we know that for the next 20 years we're going to be paying more taxes. There's no way to support what has happened without paying taxes. I understand that. You understand that. We understand that. We agree with it tacitly, if not overtly. But we have to. We're going. A lot of it's going to support public sector jobs, educators, and big corporations. And if you look at a rainbow of economics with big business, insurance companies, Bay Street, those people on top, and the lower ones being day labor and assistants and that kind of thing. The people in the middle, a lot of them tend to be family-owned businesses, and they tend to have to support the bottom and the top. I can go into that on another day, but what we in the middle, family-owned businesses in the middle, tend to be looked to support the rest of the country on our shoulders. I'm sure that your employees think that you have unlimited cash, and now that the government is helping, you don't need to. They don't need to lack in anything. I quit at the bottom there. Will SNC Landline go bankrupt? A better point, I think, was raised by a friend of mine that I called a week or so ago, and he just said there are going to be some people that get really rich out of this, and I just can't help but think that's true, and I really wish it weren't. It's just irritating to hear me say it. So I think that to me, in any change, there are opportunities. That's been proven historically over and over again. I think I've given some reasons why I think that there will be larger opportunities after this is over than we have seen in some other change, like after the big recession in 2007, 2008. There were opportunities there as well, and people took advantage of them and did well. I think that the opportunities there will be much broader than just in the financial and the construction sectors. Next. So you're going to have to come up with something. I can't tell you what you need to do with your business. I've avoided, as a magazine, I've avoided ever trying to tell anybody what they should do. I did do flooring when I was in university. I knew how to lay tile, linoleum, and carpet. I buggered up my knees pretty good kicking carpet that was too wide for the knee kicker. But I'm not a carpet person. I'm a magazine guy, and so all I try to do is provide business information, government information, regulations, cost of compliance, business information that you can get out of a magazine that maybe you don't know inherently from your own life experience. I don't teach people how to run their businesses. So I've tried to point out where I think there are some opportunities that are going to appear. You're going to have to see them. But when you do have an opportunity, historically in my life, I've always felt that there are three crucial tests of any plan. Number one, is it feasible? That means you just can't dream up like, oh, we're going to have a floating chair. We're going to have an anti-gravity chair. You can just sit in there and be no leg. You can dream that if you like. It's not going to happen. It's not feasible, at least not with any technology that we have today. You need to look at human resources, temporal resources, material resources, and fiscal resources. Is the idea that you have fiscally, is it feasible? Next. Is it enforceable? Maybe a better word is, can you get compliance? Can people be counted upon to take the appropriate action in the appropriate time to make your plan come to fruition? And next, will it achieve the desired result? This is the one I wish we could hammer into every every MP, every MPP, every senator, every prime minister, is that these pie in the sky ideas that you have. What is your goal? And will it achieve the desired result? I think that if we would ask ourselves that question before we went and got a loan, before we committed capital, before we signed a contract, is this the way it's going to turn out? And will this plan get you there? If we would ask that question, I think that a lot of our problems would become diminished. So, extra point field goal. I just dug up this link. This is a 10-year-old story out of a Harvard Business Review called "Roaring Out of Recession." It is from the 2007-2008 downturn. It is not a long read. It's, I think, 8 pages, but a lot of it's pictures and subheads and call-outs and things like that. It's not a long read. And it really is interesting in how a small business person can take a look at the situation that there is. And maybe one of our first reactions is, let's throw money at it. Let's buy this off and pay this off. We don't want our credit hurt, whatever. And if you look at the people that did that, didn't work out so well. There are some people that didn't work out well in this little story. There's some people that really did work out well. It's free. I would think that you should take a look at it. If I didn't think that, I wouldn't have put it. Next slide, please. Same backyard. That's my little chipmunk back there. He's looking ahead, looking for something to do. And I think that's kind of the way I look at it. I'm sorry I didn't have a solution for all the problems. I'm really happy that the economy is starting to open up. I think that we all have a ways to go and a way to get there. And with that, I'll just be quiet and ask if there are any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, so if you have a question for Kerry, please type it into the chat box or unmute yourself, and I will call upon you as I scroll through all the list of attendees. So if you have a question, unmute yourself and ask him now. I'm just looking in the chat and down the list. No one has unmuted themselves.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everybody, for coming today.
Thank you so much. And Thomas, the meeting is yours.
All right.